Hello my dear friends, how are you? My name is Ari Thurger and today I'm going to answer a question from one of my patrons, Mr. Tony Brown. And the question is about the Wiccan holidays. How do they tie into the rest of the European pagan holidays? I was going to make these videos exclusive for the Patron platform, but I decided to share them here on YouTube as well. My patrons who chose the Konungar tier can ask me questions and I'll do videos answering their questions. One question per month for each patron. At the same time, I share the videos on YouTube and everybody else has access to this information as well. My patrons have what they have asked for, and the subscribers of this channel can also have access to this type of information that might be useful to them. Everyone wins, I think. It seems fair, right? Well, let's get started. When it comes to pagan holidays and festivities, the dates and meanings, which holiday belongs to which culture, things tend to be very confusing, mostly precisely because of Wicca, this neo-pagan tradition which incorporated loads of European and some non-European pagan traditions. It gets even more confusing because a lot of modern pagan traditions transformed Christian holidays and global celebrations into pagan festivities linked to their modern pagan religious beliefs. For instance, Yggdrasil Day. There was never a day to celebrate Yggdrasil, but because nowadays we have Arbor Day, a holiday in which individuals and groups are encouraged to plant trees, some modern pagans who follow Northern European pagan traditions incorporated this holiday into their pagan holidays. Nowadays, in modern paganism, not only we have loads of historical pagan holidays, but also modern pagan holidays. An entire year filled with celebrations. Pagans do like to party. But some pagan holidays within Wicca have similarities with other pagan branches, and some even coincide, and others are practically the same but with different names. I'll try to have a coherent line of thought so this doesn't get even more confusing than it already is. Let's imagine three specific cases. We have a person who follows Northern European pagan traditions. That person will celebrate the holidays of that specific pagan tradition, and that's it. Then we have a person who is more inclined to worship the Norse gods, but it's also a Wiccan, so that person will celebrate Norse holidays along with Wiccan holidays and Sabbaths, and it might occur that in the same day a person will have to make a special offering to a Norse deity, but also to another deity not of the Norse pantheon, but it's a very important deity within the Wiccan tradition, and the days to celebrate both deities coincide. Then we have a third person who is Wiccan, so it will celebrate Wiccan holidays and Sabbaths, and if that person so chooses, can also celebrate other holidays of other pagan cultures and worship other pantheons. What do these people have in common in terms of celebrations? The year celebrations of the equinoxes and solstices, and that's it in terms of holidays. Things are not that simple in the pagan world. For those who are just coming in contact with paganism, there is this tendency that paganism is a universal religion and everything is practically the same. This is much due to the Wicca tradition, which incorporates a lot of pagan traditions, even if the basics are much more Celtic in nature. In Wicca they incorporate loads of pagan traditions, but in truth each pagan branch has loads of differences from each other. For instance, seasonal holidays differ from faith to faith, among those who follow any form of northern traditional pagan religion. In Scandinavia and Iceland, holidays tend to focus on Yule, winter nights and Thor's Day during spring. In ancient Scandinavia, farmers were busy with crops during the warm months and stuck inside during the colder weather, which is why there are fewer warmer weather holidays to celebrate, and in general there is the tendency to celebrate holidays linked to cold months. In England, where Anglo-Saxon paganism is more popular, holidays might follow the traditional Saxon calendar with one particular holiday for each month, sometimes also with the eightfold wheel of the year incorporated within Anglo-Saxon traditions, because Celtic pagan traditions were also integrated into it, because the two traditions did mix in England at some point in history, and so some holidays were celebrated in both traditions. For every Celtic name of a holiday, there is usually an Anglo-Saxon equivalent. For example, the Irish Lugnasad, Luke's holiday, is the same as the Saxon Lochmas or Loaf celebration, as both peoples were celebrating something at that time. And this also goes to Southern European pagan traditions. There are some similarities between Hellenic and Roman holidays, some even coincide, but others not so much. There are the Lusitanian and Iberian pagan traditions as well, which in nature are a lot more Celtic from the Atlantic, but far older than the Celtic celebrations of the British Isles, which means we can't say every Celtic-like culture celebrated the same, because many celebrations have to do with the natural environment people were inserted in. Even so, there are ties between pagan celebrations, those of the so-called wheel of the year. Let's start with Yule, which is the most famous pagan celebration. This is the winter solstice, so naturally every pagan branch of the Northern Hemisphere celebrates this one on the 21st of December. In Wiccan paganism, this is either called Yule or midwinter, and it's celebrated on this specific day. The Norse traditions also celebrate Yule on this day, but they also have a midwinter celebration which is called Midvintersblot, and it's on the 13th of January. Now, if you are a Wiccan who somehow worships both Norse traditions and Hellenic ones, I don't know, it might happen, you will be celebrating Midvintersblot in the same day of the festivities to the goddess Hecat. Modern branches of Norse paganism also celebrate the 12 nights, which begin at the 25th of December and end at the 5th of January. If you are a pagan who follows the Roman traditions, you will have the celebrations of Saturnalia, beginning at the 17th of December and ending at the 24th of December, just one day before the Dies Natalis Vixi Solis, the celebration of the 25th of December. See this example here? The only things in common is Yule, the Yule celebration, the winter solstice. Every other celebration has its own nature according to the historical reality of each culture. The Wiccan pagan traditions, aside from the Sabbaths and an emphasis of the Celtic cultures and Celtic deities, that neo-pagan religion also turns its holidays around the wheel of the year, 8 major celebrations. We have already seen Yule and its tie to other pagan branches, so let's take a look at the other 7 celebrations. We have Imbolc at the 2nd of February, the first cross-quarter day following midwinter. Some people like to compare this celebration with the Norse Dísablot, the sacrifice to the Disir, female ancestors, spirits and goddesses. Most Wiccans who are inclined to the Norse pantheon celebrate these two festivities during February. This is when it gets even more confusing, because, historically speaking, the dates for the sacrificial holiday of Dísablot differ a lot. No one knows the precise date for this celebration. In some accounts it's during midwinter, with no specific date. Other accounts tell us it was during the winter nights, or Vetternate, the passage from autumn to winter, precisely during the time when people started to go indoors. Winter was coming, and much of this celebration was indeed performed in privacy, but it was also a public celebration. So nowhere close to the celebration of Imbolc. but in other accounts this celebration might also have occurred in March during the vernal equinox. Still, it didn't coincide with the celebration of Imbolc. Hostra. This marks the vernal equinox, spring equinox, in many pagan traditions, somewhere around or between the 19th and the 22nd of March. Most pagans celebrate this time by honoring the Germanic goddess of spring, Hostra, about whom almost nothing is known. Some followers of Norse pagan traditions take this day to honor Freya, or Idun, or even Thor, although Thor's day is at the 17th of January. Nevertheless, this is an equinox, therefore it has ties with other pagan cultures, even if in Scandinavia, due to the long winters, this celebration wasn't actually celebrated by anyone. As I've said, the Norse were much more turned to winter celebrations rather than warm weather celebrations. Bothnia, at the 1st of May, traditionally it marked the first day of summer for the Irish. To the English it was the celebration to crown the Queen of May, picking the most beautiful girl in the village, making her the personification of the goddess of spring, an Anglo-Saxon tradition which has survived through this tradition of the Queen of May. To the Germanic it was called Walpurgis, again named after the same goddess Hostre, but this time as her other name, Walburga. It's actually celebrated around the 29th and the 13th of April and later adopted by Scandinavians. So in general, nowadays it became the date to honor the goddesses of spring. But again, the geography of countries is quite different. Anglo-Saxons were honoring the spring goddess, some Celts were honoring the first day of summer, the Norse were not celebrating anything in particular, while the Germanic peoples of Central Europe were celebrating something related to the dead, nothing to do with spring, which later was turned into the Christian holiday of Saint Walpurga, and nowadays for modern Norse neo-pagans it's a 9-day celebration in honor of Odin. To other pagan cultures it's generally the beginning of summer, even though it's not the summer solstice. This celebration is a mess if you try to see similarities between pagan traditions. It doesn't have clear ties between different pagan cultures. Then we have Midsummer. The Wiccan traditions call it Litha, from the Anglo-Saxon. This is the summer solstice, a solar holiday at the 21st of June. Precisely because it's a solstice, most pagan traditions have this one in common, and almost everyone celebrates the coming of summer. Lammas, or Lugnasha, is the holiday of the first cutting of the grain. In Wiccan traditions, it's the first of the 3 harvest festivals. It's a Wiccan celebration with ties to some Celtic Irish traditions, Anglo-Saxon and also Christian religious traditions which incorporated some pagan traditions. This celebration takes place at the 1st of August, and some modern pagans who follow the Norse pagan traditions, mostly pagans from the United States of America and Canada, turned this day into the celebration of Freyfaxi, a celebration in honor of Freyr. But historically speaking, this one was not a celebration held in other pagan realities. This one is a Wiccan exclusive celebration that some other branches of modern paganism adopted. Then we have Mabon, the autumn equinox. As I've said, solstices and equinoxes were celebrated by most pagan traditions of the Northern Hemisphere. However, this one is not the case, it's the only one actually. This celebration is held at the 21st of September. This one is celebrated by Wiccans, but in other pagan cultures this may or may not have been celebrated, because there was the notion of 3 seasons only: spring, summer and winter. This is a equinox, so people probably celebrate it not as the beginning of autumn, nor the official beginning of winter, but the date when the days progressively started to be shorter and nights grew longer. This might have been celebrated or not as the beginning of darkness, and a point which marked the beginning of the preparations for the coming winter. The Saxons referred to September as Elagnonath, or only month, so obviously something was going on. And there are references in Scandinavia to the existence of the Ostblot, or the autumn sacrifice, but historically speaking, we have no clues. Nowadays we can celebrate autumn equinox, and other modern pagan branches also adopted this one. And finally we have Samhain at the 1st of November. The Celts called October 13 Samhain. Some Nordic-inspired groups call it Winter Nights, as winter is coming on. Samhain is considered by Wiccans to be one of the 4 greater Sabbaths. This is a mixture between the traditions of Halloween and the Day of the Dead, and in general celebrations to honor the dead ancestors. Modern paganism made a mess out of this. I won't go into details because that's not the purpose of this video. Suffice to say, the Dead and Harvest festivals seem to be the only thing connecting this time to various pagan celebrations. Many pagans believe that at Samhain the veil between this world and the afterlife is at its thinnest point, making it easier to communicate with those who have left this world. So in conclusion, Yule and Midsummer are the celebrations practically celebrated by every pagan and Ostara by most. What people are celebrating nowadays in great part are modern pagan reconstructions. Historically speaking, there were thousands of celebrations and almost none has ties with other pagan realities. Some might coincide and have similarities, but in general there aren't many ties. But it was the winter and summer solstices that every pagan celebrated. The celebration of the sun, its birth at the summer solstice and its rebirth at the winter solstice, was of the utmost importance to every pagan. The returning of light into the world, the time for agriculture, the flourishing of the beauty of nature, all the symbolic connotations with sky gods, and the concept of creation. Alright, my dear friends, I do hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you all for being in here, and a special thanks to Mr. Tony Brown, not only for being my patron, but for this question as well. With the release of this video, I've also made a post on Patron with a list of pagan celebrations throughout the year. That also includes Egyptian, Roman, and Hellenic. So, thank you so much for watching, and I know you have probably noticed this. Well, what kind of Viking would I be without a few scars? Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching, see you on the next video, and as always, tack för idag!